Hello, and welcome back. I am Brian Hank, also known as the Forbidden Limb. I'm doing a strategic analysis today on the game Smash Up. This is a game designed by Paul Peterson and published by Aldrich Entertainment Group. And it's a fun game that I've found recently. And it's a card game. They call it a shuffle building card game. So you just take two decks, one of each faction in a game, put them together for a 40-card deck, and start playing. So it takes a lot of the fun stuff about some of the more in-depth, intricate strategy card games that you might have played before, and puts it into kind of just a simpler package, so that a new player can jump right in and start playing, grab two decks, put them together, and start playing the game, and actually have a chance to compete with someone who's played many games of Smash Up. So it's cool, a lot of fun, and so yeah, it doesn't have all those just like tons of like phases like they have in like Magic the Gathering, or bunch of different like types of different cards like you might find in like a Netrunner Android game. So it's just yeah, much simpler package. So it takes the best of those collectible card games and puts it into a package and a rule set that anyone can understand pretty easily. So I like it a lot. Really fun game, and games are quick too. So I like that about it too. You can just play a game in 10, 15, 20 minutes and you're done. So yeah, I am going to talk about each of the different factions, talking about just the base game like I do in most of my videos. So, if you play an expansion, you can hopefully still use a lot of these tips in the expansion. You can't really the other way around, so that's why I like to usually just do the base game. So there are some really cool factions in the expansion. So, but yeah, so recommend playing that, but I'm just going to talk about the base game. So there are 8 different factions, and I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to talk about the strategy for each one, because usually there's like 1 or 2 primary strategies that each faction uses to win the game. So I'll talk about those, so you know to recognize them. So you know to use them, because you really have to. In Smash Up, you can't have like a Smash Up strategy. Like every time I play Smash Up, no matter which factions I take, I'm just going to play the same way. Like, I'm going to put all my minions on one base, try to get first place, and then move on to the next base and try to get first place. And just like you can't just play that way for every type of faction. You really have to know the strengths of the faction, play to them, and use the strategy that the factions were based around. So that is how you should play. So yeah, but go through each faction, say which ones work well together, which ones are particularly effective against others. So like the Almighty Zombies, how you can beat the Almighty Zombies with other factions. It is doable. So I'll go through that. Bases that work really well, combos for the factions, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to go through each one, tell you all about them to begin with, and then follow up with some more general tips, and that should be about it. So that's what you have to look forward to. So the factions. Before I go into each faction, I'll talk about them in general a little bit. First off, here is a table of each faction, and it also has how many minions there are in that faction, how many action cards, and then the average power of the minions. So you can see that even though it might not seem like it, especially for like the Wizards or the Tricksters, sometimes it seems like there's more action cards than minion cards, but no, they are actually the same for everyone except the robots, who have 18 minions and 2 action cards. Otherwise, they're the same. But you can see that the Dinosaurs have the most power per minion, and also what this table doesn't take into account would be things like the Dinosaurs have ways to increase the power of minions. They have quite a few cards that do that, so it doesn't take that into account. So they're actually even bigger than this table might make it seem. And also like their War Raptor. Their War Raptor comes out at a 2 power, but then immediately goes up to 3 power because it gets +1 for every War Raptor, including itself. So according to in calculation of this table, it was considered a 2, even though immediately it's a 3 when it comes out. So something to be aware of. So Dinosaurs are actually bigger than it looks here. Okay, what else about factions? Every combo faction can win. There are some that are much tougher to win, some much better combos, some kind of top tier combos. There are some factions that will really that can really carry a deck. So like zombies can carry a deck, dinosaurs can carry a deck, pirates can, a little less so like aliens. There are some that you kind of need to drive the deck, and then some that can be more support. So more like tricksters can be support, ninjas can be support. So there's kind of two. I may be oversimplifying a little bit, but there are more minion focused factions and then more control focused factions. So I'm gonna kind of talk about them more in that light. So the support ones that I mentioned are more of the control. So they will take out actions that people have played, like disenchant them. They can kill creatures, so they will control the creatures. So they allow you to manipulate which minions get to go on which bases and which actions get to survive. So that's kind of the control thought. But then like dinosaurs are just like all about minions. Straight up, they're just minions and cards that increase the power of those minions. So yeah, those are kind of the two types. And one cool thing about this game that I really like is the theme. They did a great job with the theme, in that the cards make sense, and they spend a lot of time. Yet the factions are still fairly well balanced too. Not completely by any means, but they did a pretty good job while keeping a very, very strong theme. Things like pirates being able to get in their ships and move between bases very easily. Aliens like probing and like beaming up minions back to their owner's hand, and some of the theme stuff is really cool. The ninjas like in their poisoning and assassinating and that kind of thing. So really cool part of it. So yeah, I think that's enough of an overview. So we'll start off with we'll just go alphabetical order. Let's go with the aliens first. Aliens are more of one of the support or control factions. What's cool about them? They have a pretty straightforward strategy. That is to bring out their invader minions, which immediately just give them +1 victory point, which is so awesome. And they have 2 of them in the deck. So it's to get them out, and then they have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of actions that will send minions back to the owner's hand. So most of the if you're doing well and you're the aliens, most of your turns will be bring out invader, give me +1 BP. Action is to send him back to my hand. Then next turn do the same thing. That's really usually that's your strategy as aliens, but it's very, very effective, at least in a 2-player game. So the more players you have, really with any of these control factions, the more players you have, the less effective the control type factions are. But in a 2-player game, you can keep doing that over and over and over again, and you have a really good chance of winning, no matter your supporting faction for the aliens. So yeah, that is your strategy, it's actually really good. It can be so. As far as a supporting faction, when you're making that choice, if you go with aliens, you can go. So there's a few good ones. Zombies, of course. Zombies are awesome because they're zombies and they're awesome alone. So great, but particularly good with the aliens because you can bring out those invaders to get those free victory points, and then send them back to your hand when you can with alien cards. But if they do die, which they will if you don't bring them out and bring them back immediately in the same turn, somebody's going to kill them because they know that is your weak point. And if you can kill the invaders on the alien faction, you are taking their main, almost only strategy for winning as the aliens. So everybody will try to do that. So be careful about keeping an invader out for a full round of turns. Very careful. But it doesn't matter if you're zombies, if you have zombies as your supporting faction, because then they die and zombies just bring them back to life. So they're good. The wizards are good because they will ensure that you will get to those invader cards. Because I mean, if you get your 2 invader cards at the bottom of your deck, you're probably not going to win as the aliens. You need those guys. So the wizards will ensure you will get that. Plus, if the invaders do die, then wizards will grind through your deck very quickly, so you can just shuffle your discard pile back into your deck and draw more. So wizards are decent. Really, it doesn't matter too much. Tricksters work pretty well too, because you can, put that thing on the base, the action on the base, where you get an additional minion to put down every turn. That guy's great for that, and just to kind of control the game more. As the Tricksters, they have some control cards too, so that you can just keep bringing out the invader, sending him back to your hand over and over and over again, while controlling the other team too at the same time. So that works pretty well. They are pretty decent against the zombies too, so good with them but also against them, because the zombies need to have their minions die, and the aliens don't really kill opponent minions. They just send them back to their hand. So you're taking away that really important part of the zombie deck and bringing people, their minions back from the dead. So aliens are a pretty good combo against the zombies too. The base, the mothership as the base is a good one for them. Otherwise, they don't have any others that are particularly amazing for them. So mothership's a good one. Dinosaurs. These guys are just big and dumb, and it's not really a dig at them, and not at all actually. It's actually a really good thing. They according to the table, 3.2 average power for these guys, not including all the augmentations that they have to give their guys even more power, and things like the War Raptor, which I already mentioned. Like, get a bunch of War Raptors together, they hit the table, 2 power, plus immediately get the +1 because they are themselves a War Raptor, and then for any other War Raptor, they can quickly become very, very big, so they can take down a base quickly. So yeah, these guys are pretty simple. You don't have the micromanagement that you do in some of the other factions, where you need to do things in particular order, and all those micromanagement decisions that a lot of the other factions have. These guys, you can just put on a base and just pile them on a base and try to win. This is one faction where that is your strategy, to just go for first place on every base and try to score every base on your turn. Every chance you get to score a base, you just try to pile minions on there until you do, or get second place if somebody else is able to score them. You at least you can get a lot of muscle on the base on your turn, so that you get a first or second place when it does score. So that's pretty simple. That's why I would recommend Dinosaurs to any new player. You just don't have to think very much for them. But they're good too as a support, so that I don't really have a faction that I found is a perfect match for them. But they will help with anyone. They're a big. They have a lot of minions with high power that you can really use in conjunction with any other faction in that faction strategy. So they're a pretty good supplement to any of the other factions. And as far as bases go, they like that factory, that 4361337 factory base. That guy's pretty good because you get the 1 DP for every 5 power on that base. So they like that one probably the best. And then as far as like who they really dominate, again, they don't really have one that they dominate. They're just generally pretty straightforward and pretty good, just high power minions. So they're a great supplement to any faction out there. Ninjas are another one of those control factions. So they do a lot of killing. They have cards that will assassinate or poison, or minions will come out and they will be able to kill a minion when you bring out one of your minions. So they're good at that, and they are good at controlling. So they're also sneaky because they have some of those before a base scores abilities too. The general strategy you'll use with ninjas would be to put down an Acolyte, which only does have the 2 power. But that Acolyte can then be replaced with a bigger minion to put you into a position to hopefully win first place or second place on a base. So you need to use those before a base scores abilities very carefully, and those will often be what will help you to win the game or will lose you the game. With the ninjas, along with most other control factions, it's really hard to control more than one player. So ninjas are another one that are very effective against in like a 2-player game, but when you try to stretch them out to a 3 or 4-player game, they have diminishing returns. It's really hard to you can't kill all the minions that you need to of 3 other players. You just won't be able to handle that. You could control 1, but that's about all you're going to be able to do. You can certainly compete in a 3-player game, but then when you get to 4, it's really tough with the ninjas to win. Let's see. So good, supportive factions for these guys would be like Dinosaurs are good because you can have your Acolytes out there and then replace them with a Dinosaur, which is usually pretty big. So you can just that's one good combo. So they're good. So you can usually win. You can win a lot of bases that way with that combination of big dinosaurs and then being able to kill other minions on that base. So they work pretty well, and or you can actually do another control faction too to get some more controlling. So you can hope to try to control two players or completely control 1 in a 2-player game. That can work too. Something like Aliens would be good because you can use both factions to control that player completely and then get those like 1 VP invader dudes down on the base to just slowly rack up your points that way. So yeah, that is about it. Let's see. Good bases would be like the Gray Opal is one of them. And so like the ones that do good stuff for like the person coming in second place, because a lot of times with ninjas you won't get first place, but you can definitely get second place. But if you're really sneaky, you can definitely get first place with them too. That's about it for the ninjas. Next, the pirates are a really good faction. They have 2 primary abilities that are used throughout the game. One being to move minions between bases, either your own minions or opponent minions, whenever that makes sense. The second ability that they use all the time is to kill small minions, because they have actually 7 out of 20 of the cards in their deck have the ability to kill minions of power 2 or less. So they can wipe out small minions very easily. So they are great against those factions that rely on them, like the 2 most powerful standalone minions, the robots and the zombies. They both rely on small minions, so these guys are great counters to both of them, particularly the robots. So yeah, use them when you are unable to grab the robots or the zombies during the faction drafting phase at the beginning of the game. So if you can't get them and somebody else does, you can at least get the pirates to counter them. So use them for that. So yeah, both the moving minions between bases and those doing killing minions of power 2 or less. You use them situationally, whenever it makes sense to use them. But also don't be afraid to use those cards, because you have so many that move dudes between bases and that kill minions of power 2 or less. So you have so many of them, just use them. Whenever it puts you into a better position in the game, just go ahead and use them, because you're going to get many more of those, and you don't want to be stuck with like 5 ways to kill 5 cards in your hand that kill minions of power 2 or less. Like, you won't use them. You can't use them all at the same time anyway in the same turn. So don't be afraid to use them. And yeah, your primary strategy is to like throw down those first mates who will get to move to a new base once you score that one. So they are really, really good for a power 2 minion, because if you can get them out early in the game. So hopefully you get those early in the game and you can just keep using them throughout the game. Yeah, that's your main strategy, and then yeah, you can kill them easily. You have the Pirate King who can jump between bases too before base scores. Yeah, you've got a lot of options with the Pirates. So when you're thinking about which faction to team these guys up with, I would recommend not doing it with a faction that also is good at killing other minions, like the ninjas come to mind. Don't want to pair these two up because otherwise you'll just have too many ways to kill minions and not enough minions to kill. So you'll find yourself with the opponents will have minions of power greater than 2 that you just won't be able to kill, and not enough of them small enough that you can kill them and want to kill them. So yeah, don't pair them up with them. But yeah, otherwise use them as a counter to robots and zombies, and a lot of the bases will have, you can take advantage of moving these guys to them when it makes sense, like move a Pirate King over to the factory 637, 1337, whatever it is. Move him over there just before it scores so that you can take advantage of the extra, VP you can get from it. And add his 5 power to it also, and yeah, so be very careful to look at the bonuses you get on each base, the abilities of the base, so that you can move guys over there as it makes sense. And that's the Pirates. The robots are probably the most fun faction to play. You have all these little robots and you get to throw them down, oftentimes more than one per turn, and build up what seems like a bunch of little guys that aren't really gonna be able to take over a base or get first place on a base, but then they quickly turn into bigger minions as you get more of them, and you get the bonuses of for having more minions on a base. For some of the cards too, so they're really fun to play and extremely good. I would put them number 2, standalone. Zombies, of course, are first. They're the best, but robots take pretty easy second place. So yeah, really good. They're gonna rely on the Microbot Alpha and the 2 Microbot Fixers to dominate. They can still compete without those, but those 3 cards will really put these guys over the top. So yeah, use them. It kind of sucks that they don't require cards being drawn in the right order, but you are much more effective if you get like a good set of like the guys who come out, Reclaimers, I believe, where you, if they're the first minion played, you get to play another minion. You get the 2 power one who lets you play another minion also. And you can get kind of a nice cycle to get like 6, 7, 8, 9 power on one single turn with these guys that you're throwing down. And that can often win a base. They're really good at just all of a sudden, bam, 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 I win the base, or I score the base and get first place, and he just kind of comes out of nowhere a little bit. So they're very effective that way. You'd want to pair them with a faction who will assist with that. So like the Tricksters are good because they have the 2 cards where you can put it down on a base and then play an extra minion on that base every turn. So that's super good, especially with these guys. And the Wizards are pretty good to pair them with too, because you can keep drawing tons of cards, take tons of actions, and that helps you get an even bigger army on a base in a single turn. And so you can easily get up to 10, 11, 12 power on a base if you have the right faction that accompanies the robots. But oftentimes the robots are just gonna, be the core. They're gonna lead your 2 factions, your deck, with their strategy, and then you'll just need someone to supplement them. And like I said at the beginning too, they are the only ones who don't have 10 minions and 10 actions. They have 18 minions and 2 actions. So you're not going to get many actions with them. So another reason why Wizards are kind of good, because you can draw a ton of cards where you're hopefully going to get some actions too, so you can keep playing those and not waste your action part of your turn because you don't have any. So they have also have a lot of bases that they like. The home world, the Central Brain is good for them. That Rhodes Plaza Mall is good for them. Anything where lots of minions will get you something. So there are quite a few bases that will allow them to do that. So that's the robots. Next are the Tricksters, and they are kind of annoying for everybody else. They make you discard cards, and they're usually the faction that are the last to be picked. So they aren't. That's not to say that they're bad. They're not bad. They're just usually not as good as the rest of the factions. But you can win with the Tricksters. You can certainly win games with the Tricksters. They have to be in the support role though. You have to have another faction that will drive your deck. So like robots are pretty good with the Tricksters. The good thing about the Tricksters, so like, they're also pretty good against the Pirates. So if somebody has the Pirates and you're worried about them, that player, they're a good counter to them because the Pirates, the only minion the Pirates can kill, because with their kill any minion of power 2 or less are the Gremlins, and then if you kill a Gremlin, they have to discard a card. So they're pretty effective against the Pirates. But yeah, so in figuring out who to team up with for the factions, robots would be first pick. Otherwise, like Dinosaurs can be good. They have the Tricksters have the Enshrouding Mist, which is the one I couldn't think of the name of before earlier, where you put that on the on a base and then you can play an extra minion on that base. So that's great, but generally you run out of minions. With them unless you team them up with the robots. So but they're definitely not bad. They can get rid of actions, which is really nice too. Some of the other factions have some really good actions, and these guys can disenchant those actions with a few of their cards. So that's a really nice bonus to them too. Because sometimes an action will just like completely screw you over. So it's nice to be able to get rid of them. And again, they are a control type of faction too, so you can control another player in a 2-player game, but their trickery doesn't really extend very well into like a 3 or 4-player game. You just don't have enough tricks in your bag to keep up with 3 or 4 players. You can, I mean, like with their Enshrouding Mist, you can get a lot of minions out there, so they would kind of prefer the same kinds of bases that like the zombies and the robots would prefer. So like the homeworld and the Central Brain and the Rhodes Plaza Mall, and yeah, that's about all there is to say about the Tricksters. These guys are another kind of annoying faction, just like the Tricksters, but these guys are annoying in a completely different way. The Wizards are annoying. Well, so the Wizards are just going to draw extra cards and take extra actions. That's really what they do. So then you're forced to make a lot of decisions. So if you're someone who doesn't come to decisions very quickly and it's hard to decide, you probably want to play these guys because every single turn you're going to be faced with that, and you have to try to figure out when do I draw my extra cards, when do I take my extra actions, and what do I do in every situation? Do I keep going, trying to draw more cards and take more actions? And sometimes if you don't make the right decision, you're going to take a bunch of time. People are going to be a little frustrated with you, and then you sometimes are just like, I'm stuck. I didn't get what I hoped I would get, and now I can't do anything this turn, so I'm done. So they can be kind of frustrating, and there are a few factions that work really well with these guys. So if you can get the Wizards along with zombies, that is awesome. That is the best faction combo in the game. So that would be sweet. Also, robots are very good because they work really well with the drawing extra cards and taking extra actions because they also have similar cards and tons of minions to get out there. So you can have this awesome like chain effect of drawing cards, taking actions, dropping all these robots out there, and you can get like 12, 13 power on a single turn by just dropping a ton of these robots out. So Yeah, wizard robot combo is awesome. And like a dinosaur, they're not bad either because it at least gives you that muscle that you need to take over bases. But if you don't get one of them, then it starts getting a little trickier. If you have to settle for like pirates or aliens without quite as much power, it starts to get hard to get enough power to take over bases and really compete in a game. So yeah, but these guys. Any of the bases that, like the Temple of Goju, that will allow you to put your minions back on the bottom of your deck, because these wizards just like tear through your deck so quickly that yeah, you're gonna get to those probably powerful minions again pretty quickly too. So. Yeah, that's the wizard. So lastly, we have the zombies, who are hands down the best faction in the game. And what they really do is they really extend your hand into the discard pile, because they have many ways of playing minions that have been retired to the discard pile and putting them right onto a base. So when people kill them or a base scores and they go back to the discard pile, you can just shoot them right back out. So what you'd really want to do with them usually is pile all your guys onto one base, get that to score, and then those guys go to the discard pile. Then you can put them straight back out onto another base. So do that as opposed to spreading them out across many bases that might take many turns to score, because you really just want to get that cycle going of getting them killed or base scoring, get them into the discard pile, so you can shoot them back out onto another base. So as if they didn't need another benefit, they're very consistent. They are very, very flexible, because they don't rely on like one or two cards in particular that they need to really be competitive in a game. If you kill any of their minions, you just bring them right back out, or minions of the faction with which you pair them. If there's one that they rely on, like the robots and their microbot alphas or fixers, those die, you can just bring them right back out. So they help with that consistency and flexibility that you would like. So anytime you have these zombies, especially if they're paired with like robots or wizards, really hard to stop. So if you have first choice during the faction drafting, take zombies, definitely. They work well with pretty much any other faction, because they will drive your deck, and then anyone else can just be kind of supportive to them. And they like the Rhodes Plaza Mall is an awesome base for them, but really the base abilities don't matter too much, because these guys are just so good. So that pretty much wraps up the faction discussion, going through them one by one. Now I'd like to just talk about general tips and strategies for this game. First one being, you play to 15 victory points. That might sound like a lot right now, but as you play, it comes up very quickly. So before you know it, the game is close to ending. So every victory point is incredibly important. If you can bump yourself up from third place to second place on a base scoring, so important, very possible that will be the difference in the game. So yeah, those come up quickly. Don't sit back and relax and think you have a lot of time to play this game, because you really don't. Once you get up to about 10 victory points, start thinking about how you're going to get those last 5. Or if you get up to 11, those last 4, find the easiest way to get those last points and win the game. And also be aware of anyone who's right up there with you too. So if there's something where you would get 5 points for winning a base and the second place person would get 3, look at whether that would actually win the game. If somebody else gets 3, maybe if you get 5 and they get 3, they might actually end up winning, depending on what the current score is. Or if you are hoping for that 5 but you only get that 3, is that going to guarantee that you're going to lose? So just really start looking at the point totals and strategizing your last couple turns, your last sources of those victory points to win you the game. That's really important. Look for combos. There are combos everywhere in this game, and you can really take advantage of combos between your faction combinations, and certain cards within them. Also pairing those with the abilities of the base. Especially for new players, sometimes it's easy to forget what all the base abilities are, especially when there are a lot of bases in a larger player game. And sometimes you kind of forget what the abilities are. So make sure you know what each of them are, and see if you can pair those up with cards in your hand to get some really sweet combos. Because a lot of times the combos will win you the game in Smash Up. So that's important. You can also do some sweet ones, like the one that gives you a victory point if a creature, if your minion is destroyed on it. So like for pirates, like if they can broadside their own minions, if they got some smaller minions on there, they can broadside them and just like rack up. Like, yeah, you lose your minions, but you can rack up a bunch of victory points that way. So I like those kinds of combos. That is important. Also, very important, you should know what the weaknesses are of each of the factions, because some of them rely incredibly heavily on a few particular cards. So if you're able to kill them or destroy them in some way, you can give yourself a huge advantage. You can put yourself in a much better position if you can do that. So like the invaders of the aliens, if you can kill them, the aliens don't have much of a chance. Robots, you severely hinder them if you can kill those microbot alphas and fixers. So just look for that, and especially the ones that are currently really helping your opponent. Obviously, just look for those weak links in their strategy that you can take them out. So that is also important. That's about it. So that's Smash Up. So like I said at the beginning, this is a very quick game and fun and fairly easy to get into. So you can get some of those the fun parts about playing a collectible card game, but simplifying it into less phases, less types of cards, and a little less strategy. And it's still a really fun game and a great one to have in your collection. So I had a lot of fun with Smash Up, and I'm going to keep playing it. And it's really cool that you can play two-player too, and it works really well two-player. That's another great thing about Smash Up. So yeah, it'd be kind of nice if it was a little more than 4 people who could play. Sometimes that's a limiting factor. So that's kind of too bad, but it's better this way than trying to extend it to something that just doesn't work with the game. And this works really well for what it is. So theme is really fun too, especially if your friends are ones that will get into the theme a little bit, and maybe pretend they're pirates when they're playing the pirates, or they're robots when they're playing the robots. I don't know, theme is really cool in this game too, so another fun part about it. There's a little bit of kind of that analysis paralysis, especially with like the wizards who have all those decisions to make all the time, like I mentioned. And if you're a new player, there are kind of fewer duplicate cards, so a lot of times you're kind of sitting there with your hand and like reading this small text on all your cards to try to figure out what to do. So it's a little tough, for the first game or two of a new player. But that's about all you need to really get a good feel for the game too. So yeah, I like this game. That's it for the analysis. Check out theforbiddenlimb.com for my blog, where you can see a link to the text and image version of this, plus a link to this video, but since you're watching it, you probably don't need that. Yeah, put some comments below if you have any games you want me to analyze, and keep watching these videos. Until then, that's it. I'll see you later.